Hey, it's me, Viv, here to tell you more Book of Mormon stories.
Book of Mormon stories centered at Exmo told to me. Give the truth so you can satisfy curiosity.
So, a quick recap from last time our family made it from Jerusalem across the sea. They sailed across the sea into what will become future United States of America. And they're living there. They're pretty happy. They planted seeds. They're putting down roots. They're pretty happy. Some time has passed, and Lehi, our patriarch of the family, is getting quite old. Everyone is starting to see that he doesn't have very much time left, including himself. So, what does a patriarch of a family do when he realizes he's on the brink of death? Well, he starts passing out sermons like candy, of course, to all of his family members. And he's prophesying about topics like the Messiah and Adam and Eve and just the nature of this world that God created. Then, in one of his sermons, this is kind of interesting, he mentions Joseph of Egypt, like go, 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 Joseph, you know what they say, of Technicolor Dreamcoat fame. He mentions that Joseph and says that he is a descendant of Joseph of Egypt and that Joseph of Egypt saw dreams. Because remember how Joseph of Egypt, he was famous for being a dream interpreter. And apparently, Lehi claims that some of his dreams were about them and this journey that they just made to America. That Joseph of Egypt saw that his descendants were going to journey to America and make it there safely. And then he starts prophesying about another Joseph, Joseph Smith, and how Joseph Smith is going to be this great prophet to bring the gospel back to the world. And he's going to go through this amazing hero's journey and just be the most amazing guy ever. It's awfully convenient how Joseph Smith keeps finding prophecy in this book that he's translating about how great he is and all of his wonderful prophetness. So Lehi, he meets with the whole family in turn, just a special goodbye prophecy to each person. Just blessings to you, and blessings to you, and blessings to you. And you get blessings, and you get blessings. And then at the end, when he's finished, he dies. So Laman and Lemuel, in their grief over their father's death, they revert to some old patterns here. They start getting mad again that Nephi is trying to be the boss of them. They start getting mad about the whole situation of having left Jerusalem. They blame Nephi for their suffering. And then they're like, all right, here we go. Once again, let's kill him. Finally, Nephi decides to break the cycle. He's like, okay, dad's dead. I'm out. I'm done with this dynamic. And he's like, who's with me here? Okay, who wants to go off and be righteous? Who's tired of this? Who wants to go off and be righteous and do her own thing? So he gathers everybody who wants to go be righteous with him, and they go wander in the wilderness some more and leave L and L behind. They journey for several days, living in tents again. It was probably pretty bummer until they finally come to a place that they like, and they decide to call it Nephi, and they decide to call themselves the Nephites. The Nephites, they're domesticating animals, they're sowing their seeds, they're prospering. And then Nephi, he says that he uses the sword of Laban. Remember the guy that he chopped his head off in order to get the brass plates? Well, he kept that sword that he took from him and has been carrying it with him this whole time, I guess. But he says he uses that sword as a template so that he can make more swords, so that the group can defend themselves because they feel some paranoia still about Layman Lemuel and their wicked group of ne'er-do-wells who they're not sure what they're going to do, and they feel kind of paranoid. So Nephi starts using this sword as a template so that everybody can have some swords and they can have some chance at defending themselves should the worst happen. That group, Laman and Lemuel's people, the people that stayed behind with them, um they started calling themselves the Lamanites. And apparently, the Nephites are still getting word all the time that the Lamanites hate them and are holding out this, grudge for them, and ugh, hate those guys. But the Nephites continue on building stuff from iron and copper and brass and gold and silver and steel. Mm? Remember steel from last time? How that was a point of contention? Steel? Steel? Steal? What? No. But Nephi makes a point of listing all of these precious metals that are around. And so they're very, in great abundance. And the Nephites are just being busy little bees, just building and prospering and being happy. Nephi takes this moment to remind us how the Lord promised that his people should prosper since they were hearkening unto the Lord. And the Lamanites, they were cut off because they were not hearkening unto the Lord. So they were cut off from the Lord's presence. And then we get into one of the more problematic parts of the Book of Mormon. Nephi tells us that the Lamanites, they used to be white and exceedingly fair and delightsome, but now they have been cursed by God because they won't hearken unto God, and they have a skin of blackness to come up on them, so that they might not be enticing unto my people. So Nephi, he's saying that the Lamanites are black and that that's a curse, and it's specifically, they used to be white and pretty, and then the Lord made them black and ugly so that they wouldn't be enticing to his people, so that there wouldn't be any mixing between the two people, because of course that would be terribly wrong if people of two different colors mix together, and of course the righteous people are white and fair and delightsome, and the wicked people are blackness that came upon them. Yuck. Nephi really digs in hard, pouring even more salt in the wound, because he says that this curse of darkness on the Lamanites, it made them become lazy and mischievous, and they lived in the wilderness like savages, not like his people who were being prosperous and building and industrious and happy because they, are building a society. And then, of course, the Lamanites, they're wicked and their skin is dark and ugly and they're savages. They're practically animals in the wilderness. So, this is one of the most racist parts in the Book of Mormon. And members generally like to just not think about it. I think Joseph Smith's colors are really showing through here. But Nephi tells us that 40 years have now passed since they left Jerusalem, and there's been quite a bit of contention between these two groups since they separated. And then there's several chapters thrown in here where Nephi quotes a lot of things from the book of Isaiah in the Bible. And Nephi says that he just really loves the words of Isaiah. And so he writes a lot of different stuff, like from quoting Isaiah. And oops, turns out that this is another mistake on Joseph Smith's part, because some of the parts of the book of Isaiah that got quoted hadn't happened during the time that Nephi was supposedly living. They hadn't been written yet. So, oops. Then another thing that Nephi mentions is that he sees the future of his people when Christ comes, when Christ is going to come visit. Because remember how the Book of Mormon is, that's kind of the whole shtick, is that it's specifically about the Americas and Christ visiting the Americas. But he says there will be many signs, including earthquakes and lightning and fire and thundering and destruction. And a lot of people are going to die, but the righteous will be spared. And then Christ, the resurrected Christ, he'll march in there amongst all that destruction and heal them, and everything will be wonderful. Again, they will get to see the living resurrected Christ visiting them. And this is the whole point of the Book of Mormon. This is a core Mormon idea. This is the Book of Mormon. And then he looks even further into the future, and he sees a few generations after Christ has visited his people. He sees that his people will yield to the devil and be taken over by pride, and they will ultimately be destroyed. This is a popular idea from the Book of Mormon. It's called the pride cycle. And then he sees that the Gentiles will build up false churches and secret combinations. For some reason, that's kind of a Book of Mormon thing too, this idea of secret combinations, evil groups with secret combinations. Then Nephi looks even further into the future and he sees Joseph Smith. He sees visions of how the Book of Mormon will be translated by Joseph Smith, and he sees quite a lot of detail here of some of the things that go down, like with Joseph Smith writing the Book of Mormon, which I don't know, just feels kind of convenient here that he, discusses a lot of things that literally just happened at the time of Joseph Smith translating the Book of Mormon, like they just happened. It just feels like how convenient that this is a part where Nephi gets really specific about all of these things that just happened with Joseph Smith at the time of this translating, but yet he doesn't see any details of things that are about to happen or like other big important church milestones or something. No, again, Joseph Smith just loves inserting himself and his importance into his own story. Then Nephi sees visions about how there will be lots of false religions. The devil is strong and at work in the hearts of the people. But the true church, aka the Mormon church, aka the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, will come forth to all nations, and the righteous will be converted, yea. And this ends the account of Nephi, or at least this particular Nephi, because spoiler alert, a different Nephi will come later on. But that's where we'll end this episode today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Love you. Bye.